We were on the run from the police. Not just one police force, 3 police forces. Counter-terrorism, Sussex Police, and the Metropolitan Police. And I made them run around everywhere.
Abul Hasanat is a very controversial figure.
I am an atheist.
There was a time in my life where I was a bit unsettled. I might have been considered an agnostic.
Polygamy, criminal offences, terrorism, stolen money, Ruqyah, and much, much more.
Polygamy is a part of the religion itself. Men have always practiced polygamy. To have the conversation is difficult only because when my stomach bursted open inside and I was bleeding internally, right? Just at that moment they bursted in. About 26 of them with guns and stuff. I was on the floor, butt naked. I was gasping for air, I couldn't breathe. Oh Allah, forgive me. Oh Allah, forgive me. I said my shahada and stuff because I thought I was gonna die.
Brother Abul Hasanat, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much for accommodating this show. Now, obviously, I'm going to go straight into it. So, obviously, you've disappeared from the face of the earth, basically. When was the last time we've seen you on social media?
I'm on social media, but my presence is not as such as it was before.
Yeah,
especially with the content.
Was it
and stuff.
2018? Like when kind of you took a step back from the actual social media?
2019, June.
2019. So I'm not going to pretend like as if I'm taking sides here or I'm trying to kind of like, defend you or trying to stitch you up. I'm just going to ask you questions that are kind of coming in my mind and that I find kind of, I'm curious about. So I'm going to take that view. It's not about, again, as I said, it's not about disrespecting you or doing a Piers Morgan on you.
No, I know that.
I might do it, but
do you condemn Hamas?
Do you condemn yourself?
I don't condemn myself, no.
Okay. Once again, now obviously I've reached out to you to kind of really discover what went on before you disappeared from internet for a while, at least.
Mind you, I didn't disappear. It's people probably don't see me as often, especially with the amount of reach I had previously.
Yeah.
Which was like, I don't know, weekly 40 million or land. But around East London, everyone always sees me anyway because I'm around,
Okay. So take us back in time. Who's Abul Hasanat and where did he come from? And what's ultimately his purpose in life? Like, who is he and what does he want?
Okay. From one Ibn Abdul Subhan to another, our fathers shared the same name, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So my father, he came to this country 95 Alan, yeah? He was out of my life for quite a few years until I came to this country. I was there with my mum in Bangladesh. So we came in 2002. So I grew up here mostly from the age of 10. So since then, I've been back home a few times. I studied in the madrasa, Jamiatul Ummah in Shadwell. From there onwards, I started becoming practicing, say, around the age of 16, 17, more so, because obviously there's a lot of people that go to madrasa and so on. I had mostly an Islamic upbringing. Like, I wasn't allowed to watch films, listen to music or anything like that. My mom was very strict, right? So she raised me, like, listening to a lot of Quran, stuff like that, yeah? So I grew up watching documentaries, reading books, yeah. I was generally a decent kid, well-behaved and so on. After that, I took on the role of being an imam at quite a young age at Al-Ansar Islamic Center, Poplar.
Okay.
Poplar High Street, yeah? So from there, that's really where my journey of Ruqyah and stuff happens. In case a lot of people, they don't understand what Ruqyah is, it's to do with, nowadays it's known for, say, for example, jinn possession, black magic, evil eye, and so on, yeah? The thing about Ruqyah, that sort of started when I was working in Al-Ansar Islamic Center, yeah? So there was a Raqi that came. Raqi is a person who does Ruqyah. There was a Raqi, he came from Mauritius, and he was reciting on a sister, and her husband was there, yeah? And to me, this is sort of new at the time. I'm about 16 years old, yeah? So he was reciting, and all I saw was this sister vomiting into a bucket as he's reciting. So he's like, فَلَمَّا أَلْقَوْا قَالَ مُوسَى مَا جِئْتُمْ بِهِ السِّحْرُ مَا جِئْتُمْ بِهِ السِّحْرُ. He's reciting like this loud, yeah? And this went on for like a few hours, yeah? So I was there, I assisted him, helped him out. When he was tired and stuff, he'd be like, can you recite? I wasn't really that scared of it, yeah? Because when I was young, like I witnessed a lot of these things of people.
What, back home or?
Back home.
Back home.
Yeah, back home in Bangladesh, there was a relative of ours, yeah, right? She'd get possessed every few days and so on. And you know back home, they have some questionable methods. Like they used to put chili in her nose and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, she used to sometimes go a bit crazy. I don't know exactly what it was, whether it was possession or not, because obviously back home, they're very ignorant of, say, for example, any mental health issues and so on. So one day it's quite sad. One day she put a cat in a rice sack and threw it into the pond, right? The cat drowned. So she used to have these episodes all the time. And then there would be an imam that comes, he recites and so on, and then he goes. We also had that stuff.
So you were quite like, it seems like you were quite fascinated by it even before you became an imam. You kind of witnessed it back home. And did you ever kind of have any thoughts in your head, okay, what's going on? Or maybe like, did you think you might be able to do it one day? Or did any of these thoughts occur in your mind?
None of these things crossed my mind. To be honest, when I was really young, yeah. So we went to Saudi 2001 about, yeah. So that was the first time I heard, say, Sudais, Shuraim, them reciting and so on, yeah. So my mum got cassettes. At that time, it was cassettes back home. We grew up with no electricity or anything like that, yeah. It was just, those oil lamps.
Yeah, left on. We call it.
So at that time, we used to play Sudais, Shuraim on cassettes, and I used to just listen to recitations and emulate them, yeah. So at the time, my dream was not being aware of the world, being a young kid, yeah. I want to become the Imam of Mecca. I had high ambitions from a young age, yeah. So that's how my mom raised me, yeah. So yeah, at the time, there wasn't anything like in my mind about jinn possession. It was just a thing that happens here and there. You get a little bit scared. We had this other guy who was dealing with people who are possessed, right? Or he used to pretend he used to say he summons jinns. So at that time,
jinn catching, they call it, or something.
Not exactly jinn catching, but back home, some people claim that they have control over jinns.
Okay.
Right? They have control over jinns, like we have jinn mu'min, believing jinns under our control, right? So he used to have these like little events where people would gather around, yeah? And his name was Awal, I still remember. Awal meaning the first. So one day, what happened is one of these cheeky little youth, right? As he used to summon the jinns, he used to say, "Jinn, come," right? So you would hear like footsteps, bang, bang, bang. Yeah?
No, like, serious? Are you like...
You would hear footsteps.
Is this like, are you narrating some kind of artificial story, or is this real, like bam, bam, bam?
Happened, bam, bam. I was young. I was about 8 years old. So at the time, right, you'd hear all those noises, yeah? And in these events, no one was allowed to have a light on, right? So one day, one of these cheeky youth, he turned on the torchlight, yeah? And they see him with a pole, boom, 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 on the, the sat.
Oh!
The metal
My
roofs,
God, like you
right?
kind of like, had me fooled there.
So they grabbed him, they stuck him in the mud, they beat him up and stuff like that. And that was the last of Awal.
So look, your mom has been a big influencer in your kind of how you kind of were raised, always around
my
Quran.
worldview,
Yes.
Being young, yeah.
How did you form that view? I mean, obviously we will kind of discover later on as we kind of progress with our conversation, but your real kind of views, did it form from Al Ansar onwards or later or when you were younger?
I think our views are constantly developing, evolving, right? As human beings, you go through certain experiences, it might change you as a person, or you witness something and then changes your perspective on it. So right now, I'm at a stage where I'm very much at peace with my own mind. Yeah, like saying in terms of my spiritual state, faith, religion, and stuff like that. There was a time in my life, say around 2016, 15 maybe, where I was a bit unsettled.
So when did social media, I mean, how did social media come about in your life?
In my life,
yeah.
right? So since I was quite young, I haven't been exposed to, say, Western culture and stuff like that. Say, for example, the music and whatnot, TV shows and stuff like that. Like I said, I wasn't even allowed to watch. Say, for example, a lot of people, they watch EastEnders, yeah? I wasn't allowed to watch that. My cousins would watch it and stuff like that. They could relate to each other in that sort of way. Me, I could just only watch David Attenborough. That's it, right? And my dad, he used to make me read the dictionary. So I become well-versed in speaking and stuff like that, yeah? What was it that you just asked?
It happened. So where did the rise of social media or social media come in your life?
So social media, I got married at the age of 21, I think. 2014 Alan. After I got married, I didn't know what Instagram was, by the way. I think at that time, not many people were on Instagram. Or maybe they were, I probably just didn't know about it. I knew of the existence of Facebook, that was it. But my partner at the time, she showed me Instagram. And she was like, oh, by the way, look at this couple. She showed me a couple, right? And there would be all these people like asking them questions, relationship advice and so on, yeah? And this couple, they weren't really practicing. They're Muslims, but they would sometimes mock people. I remember, for example, there was this sister that asked a question about herself falling into zina, fornication or adultery, say, with her brother-in-law, right? And she genuinely was asking a question saying she felt remorse for doing this. How can she rectify it? What she's done and stuff like that, ruining her sister's life. So this couple, they were laughing and mocking, the sister. And my partner at the time, she saw this and she was like, if I had some sort of a presence online, maybe I could take the knowledge that you have, yeah? And I could probably help people and advise them in the right way. She saw through, like, say, for example, Ruqyah, and there will be a lot of people who would have, say, for example, communication issues or understanding issues between themselves, spouses, right? And often it's not a Ruqyah issue. So I'd give them advices from what I knew and from what I grew up learning, reading books, Islamic books, studies and so on. So she was like, well, maybe I should have some sort of presence. At the time, she had 200 followers or something like this. I didn't really understand it. I said, let me think about it. Because at the time, the way I was, well, I still probably am, very traditional in the sense that the wife, she asks permission from the husband before she does something, yeah? That's just our culture. I don't know, probably same case with you.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, same. So she asked me, I thought about it, I did istikhara, and I was like, well, yeah, I don't see the problem with it if you're going to help people and so on, yeah? And at the time, I still don't understand social media properly at the time. So she posted, I think, I normally used to recite Emne, right? Say, for example, Surah Kahf on a Friday. I think she recorded me reciting once and she uploaded it. And that's how she got famous. I think they went up to 80,000
So it was
followers.
her account that you started off with?
It was her account.
Has it always, is it still her account? The account that we know, Abdullah, and was it Abul Hasanat as well?
No, my name was not on there. So
okay.
she was just known as Abdullah.
Okay.
Abdullah is her kunya.
Okay.
My first son's name is Abdullah.
Yeah.
Right? So she's the mother of Abdullah.
Okay.
So that's all it was.
Okay.
For a long time.
Okay.
For about a year or two, maybe. Yeah. So she'd upload say content. She'd upload, say, for example, pictures and stuff like that. Just normal advices and stuff in the captions. Just sharing a bit of knowledge here and there or incidents from.
Okay,
online.
so obviously the world knows you as someone who's kind of tried to kind of, or maybe I don't know if it was real or if it was kind of a reverse engineered situation where you portrayed polygamy to be quite, I mean, a lot of people were kind of, a lot of brothers I know for a fact, they were like, yeah, go on, like, show more, like educate the women. Obviously, you kind of frame that picture, polygamy, and all of that is
that actually came about quite a little bit later.
Okay, so before that, it was just Abdullah and yourself.
Yeah. It was just
Yeah. So, do you still stand by all of that, the polygamy stuff? Even
You don't even have to filter questions, Via. About
Okay.
polygamy. Yeah, my
All right, go on.
opinion of polygamy. Yeah. You can say it directly.
do you still stand by
Yeah.
your views and what you've done with the polygamy and is it Sarah and Abdullah? Is that what you still believe in?
About polygamy.
Yeah.
Polygamy is a part of the religion itself, and again, a part of nature throughout history.
Okay.
Right? Men have always practiced polygamy. So I still stand by the practice of polygamy. I support polygamy. But again, say, for example, in this country, right, somebody says, marriage to more than one person is illegal. Well, in the sense that by their definition of registering two marriages, yeah. But for us, it's a verbal contract as Muslims, right? I still stand by it. I would practice polygamy, and I'd encourage other people who are capable to practice polygamy.
So you added the word capable. What is capable? What does that mean? What is capability?
Capability, I would say, generally, what comes to mind is being able to look after and understand women, more than one, right? So say, for example, if you've got the financial means, or even if you don't have the financial means, there are many of the Sahaba who had multiple wives, right? They would have been very poor. Say, for example, Ali ibn Abi Talib. He said that when I married Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ, I used to sleep on the same mat in the night that during the day my horse used to feed on during the day. So that's how poor he was. After obviously Fatima radiallahu anha passed away, he married 4 times, right? So
I mean, how does
whether
it,
you're
how,
poor or rich,
how does it kind of fit into the world we live in now? Come on, it's a very different world. The one that we live in now, where I guess even it's quite difficult, how to have that conversation.
To have the conversation is difficult only because some people, they see it as a sort of like a stigma, right? For us as Muslims, we have been honored by Islam. Umar ibn Khattab, he said, Allah gave us honor through Islam. If we seek honor through anything else other than that, then Allah will humiliate us. So say, for example, right, if I go to a wedding, yeah, and something as simple as using my hands to eat, I eat with my hands naturally because I grew up eating like that, right? I don't feel shy because of it. And in addition to that, it's sunnah as well, right? So if somebody has the intention that something's sunnah or something's good, you shouldn't feel shy about it, yeah? So again, the same applies with polygamy. It's not something that I shy away from, and I don't think any Muslim should shy away from it. If somebody asks you, does your religion permit this? Yes, you should say it proudly, right? Allah permits it for you to discourage it. A lot of women, because of their personal interests, they'll discourage it. But again, look, it's very interesting to have this conversation, right? Because a lot of sisters, including one of my ex-wives, yeah, she said to me she would have preferred for me to have partners outside of marriage, multiple partners outside of marriage, than to have one other wife, right? That's very strange because of the culture that people grew up in, right? For a lot of men, for a lot of people, say you have one wife, yeah? Allah knows the nature of men. Allah knows the nature of women. And hence, He permitted men to have more than one wife, right? And that's not limited or restricted to that time period. Because say, for example, in the Sharia that came before the Prophet ﷺ, in, say, for example, Prophet Sulaiman, he had many more wives, right? And where something needs to be abrogated, Allah abrogated it and gave us new rules. So, for example, sajda wasn't permitted after our Sharia came. Prophet ﷺ came with rules, yeah? You can't do sajda to anyone. But before that, you could do sajda of honor to elders, say, for example, right? In Bangladesh, we have
Khudumbusi or something.
People they do salam like this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So things like that they were permitted before.
So look,
And
polygamy, right?
yeah.
Did you do it because it stirred a lot of social media kind of it made a lot of kind of controversy on social media, or did you genuinely deep down in your heart believe that was the thing that you wanted to do and you wanted to do it?
Okay, so since I was young, right? I told you, I grew up reading books. Yeah. So where, say, somebody who has grown up watching things like Bollywood films, yeah, they'd see one man, one woman, right? That's what they look up to. What we see and what we hear has an effect on what we like and how we become as a person, how we develop. So what I always saw from the books that I read, every great man that I read about, he's got multiple wives, 7, 8, 9, right? Some of the Sahaba, they had to divorce some of their wives and only keep 4 in the end, right? So in my mind, from a young age, I always wanted to have more than one wife. I always wanted to have 4 wives and many children, because the Prophet ﷺ, he encouraged and he said, get married and have many children because I want to be proud of your great numbers on the Day of Judgment. So that was always my understanding. I might have matured in that sort of like aspect from a really young age. From the age of 16, I wanted to get married. Yeah, and had it been possible at the time, alhamdulillah, it wasn't possible. I would have gotten married even younger.
So you did it because you wanted to do it, not because it made it a social media sensation, just showcasing.
No, that would be very strange. Just for the sake of showing social media, no. Anyone who knows me from, say, madrasa and so on, they'd know that,
That's
it's always been the
wanted.
case that I always wanted, many wives, many children.
So how did that conversation go down, with your first wife at that time?
That conversation occurred before we actually got married. So myself, right, the other thing which a lot of people might not know, and I don't know if you know, actually.
I don't know.
I've been in prison. I've been in Belmarsh prison for terrorism charges.
I didn't know that part. I only know about your, obviously, polygamy stuff. I've seen on social media, and then, of course, the donation stuff, which later surfaced, which we will discuss in a bit, and then the Ruqyah aspect. These are the 3 things that I knew you by. And
I saw you guys first with a van selling behind a mosque. At the time, I was like 16. Yeah, and then I was selling a few perfumes, those small 3 ml bottles, just outside the mosque, right? At the age of 16. So afterwards, I saw you guys in the market and then move up to a shop. I was like, wow, I could follow those steps and become something big
why
as well.
didn't you follow those steps, man?
I did to an extent, but then I guess I got distracted, say, for example. So we started wholesaling and stuff as well. I don't know if
I don't know about the wholesaling stuff.
So we were wholesaling and stuff like that, from home. I ordered, at the time, I was about 18, 19. I ordered about 70,000 3 ml bottles.
Wow.
And my dad was like, it was all the way up to the ceiling in my bedroom. My dad was like, either take the perfumes out or leave yourself, right? That's how it was. At the time, I had faith in myself that, okay, I could make this go really big. And we did. We managed to sell about 40,000 of them.
Wow.
Right? And about 30,000 of them got destroyed. That's another story.
Wow. So look, we've discussed the polygamy stuff. You wanted to do it because you felt, or you believe, still believe that is that's the Islamic standpoint when it comes to, if you want to do it, then you should be able to do it.
Don't you?
Do you know what you're trying to? Do you know what? I'll tell you what my position is with polygamy, and it's not an Islamic one. It's more of a logistical, practical situation.
Sure.
My position is, me and my wife, we kind of met before. I mean, when the business days were very, early days. And I feel like I would be turning my back on my wife if I was to say, you know what, I need to go and get married to someone else or have another wife. I never thought, from an Islamic point of view, I feel I don't have to, because I'm quite happy, content with what I have. Alhamdulillah, 2 kids.
From the Islamic point of view, we agree then. It's allowed, it's valid. Whoever wants to practice it, they can do so. And whoever doesn't, that's also fine. It's not like you have to get married more than once.
Of course, I'm not going to disagree with,
Yeah,
with,
yeah.
The, with the with the books and the Islamic teaching.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
from a logistical point of view, do
for
I have the
yourself.
means to do it? Maybe. But do I want to do it? No.
100% you have the means.
Do I want to do it? No, because I'm happy, I'm content, and
Yeah.
and I don't see any need to
You
do
can
it.
you can double your contentment. Right?
Don't
I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you one thing. That was one of the reasons, right, why I got married again.
Mm-hmm.
So from the understanding that, say for example, I told you, right, I come from a background where, in my teenage years, I was introduced to a whole different side of Islam, where I ended up in prison because of terrorism charges, right? So me and my wife at the time, right, we were of a similar understanding in terms of traditions in Islam. So even though her heart might not have liked polygamy, she wouldn't object to it. She knew she couldn't. Not because of me, because of her beliefs in
Or
Islam.
is it because you are very, I don't know, when you are
Articulate?
very persuasive and you are kind of like, I don't know, maybe you're narcissistic, maybe you're manipulative, maybe you
That's it.
coerced her into something. I don't know.
That's a good question. Now, I'll tell you one thing, right? From what she's mentioned, yeah, I was very naive, young, and stuff like that. Yeah, I was 21 when I married her. She was 23. So most of what I learned of speaking to people, understanding people, and being a people's person, it was all from her. You understand? All of those things, they were advice from her. She was like my mentor in public.
Seriously, you took like a lot of advice from her.
From her.
Did you not have your own kind of...
you
said you were quite developed in
I was developed in my understanding Islamically and traditionally, but living in the real world, we all know it's different.
Yeah.
So from my side, right, I grew up in a way that you always have to think good of everyone, right? You don't question someone's intentions. It's called husn al-dhan, right? Thinking the best of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. But her, she was always like, you got to see the intention behind what this person has done. Perhaps they want something from this. She would always question people's intentions and stuff like that. Do you understand? At the beginning, I started off as very traditionally Islamic. Yeah. So, always thinking the best of people, helping people where possible. If I found someone homeless, generally, you wouldn't take them home and stuff. But I was living in the books, right? So back in the days when somebody saw someone in need of help, I'm going to help you. Say, for example, we lived by this hadith and this verse that we knew, yeah? وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أُصُولِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ from Surah Hashr, yeah? And they preferred their brethren over themselves, even though they were in great need of it. Now that verse was revealed because of a couple that hosted the guests of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He had some guests and he said to his wives, he sent a message out, can any of you host them today? And they all said, we don't have enough food. So this man from the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, I'll host them, Ya Rasulullah. So he took them, right? And he said to his wife, have we got enough food? She said, we've only got enough for us and the kids. So they said, you know what? Turn off the lights and put some little pebbles in the cooking pot and heat it while saying to the children the food is being prepared so that they fall asleep. So they fell asleep, right? And then they cooked the food to feed the guests. So even though they had their children to feed, they preferred their brethren. So that's why Allah revealed that verse, and it was said that Allah heard about the couple who did that, right? In the hadith it mentions, and He laughed at them. And whenever Allah laughs at anyone, there is no hisab for them in the hereafter. There's no accountability for them. So just because of that small act, when it was needed, that's what they received. So that's the kind of things we would remind each other about at the
But
time.
how does that then relate to polygamy though?
So polygamy, again...
If she had the
yeah,
choice,
yeah.
if she had a free will and free choice, do you think she would say yes to Sister Sarah?
Let's...
Imagine you said nothing to her and you just said, listen, I want to get married again.
Let's get to that then, after one small point, yeah? Firstly, of what she's mentioned to Menk was that she brought a sister to me saying, would you like to marry her?
Well, your
if
wife
you-
brought.
If you refer back to something that she said on a live with Menk, yeah, she probably now wants to retract it because later on she was like, oh, I want it taken down, right? She stabbed herself quite a few times, with what she said. So she said, I brought a sister to him. She wanted me to marry again, yeah? And with Sarah, that specific situation, she's the one who suggested it. Would you like to guess why?
Why?
Remember when I said to you just a little earlier, yeah? You can double your contentment, right? And you were saying about business and stuff like that you guys started in the beginning, yeah? That's literally how we were. But what she thought is outsource, hand over responsibilities, yeah? So she thought, well, Sarah was working for us, right? She would deal with a lot of the messages and booking appointments and things like this. She'd take on some responsibilities in terms of looking after the kids, reading books to them when they're about to go to sleep and stuff like that. So for her, it was a form of convenience, right? So she suggested, and wallahi al-azim, I'll say this without any hesitation, she said at the time, marry her before somebody else does. Marry her before somebody else does.
So who's coercing who here? I mean,
nobody's coerced anyone. We were partners, just as you consider.
So why would
So it was more like a suggestion thing. So whenever we had something come up in our lives, it would always be like mutual consultation. What do you think is the best decision forward about this situation? What should we do?
So was she stitching you up, or did she really want more from life, more contentment, or what did she want?
Not more for the sake of it. So say, for example, if she thought, well, this would be good for our family life, our business, our work life. If this is going to bring us convenience, yeah, sure, why not? And by that time, we're mostly platonic, by the way, me and my first wife, yeah? So for us, it was more like, what would be in the best interest of our family, right? So for example, another sister that I married at one stage, when we spoke to the sister, she spoke to her first actually, again, the one before that, yeah? She found out, well, she knows 5 languages. She can help teach the kids and stuff. She mentioned all those things during the talking stages to the sister.
Interview.
Yeah. So she was conducting the interview. Would you be happy, looking after kids sometimes here and there if we're going abroad and stuff like that? Would you be able to teach them homeschool? She was a hafidha. She was like, oh, that's good. She can teach them Quran as well. She understood Arabic. So from our perspective, it was like, okay, it's going to add an increase in terms of, say, our progress, dunya-wise and deen-wise, right? So for us, it was, just increasing our family at the time.
But did it though? Ultimately, did it do what it was supposed to do?
At the time, it did, yeah.
But
at the time, it did. Right now, she's of a different perspective, and I've also developed in terms of my understanding. Say, for example, where I saw myself doing content with my wife online and stuff like this, yeah. Now, when I look back at it, I don't have that same feeling. I don't feel proud of that kind of content, and I wouldn't do that kind of content again, right? I might have inspired a lot of young people, say from having relationships outside of marriage, yeah.
You have inspired? I mean,
at the time, there was a lot of people, youngsters, yeah, say for example, India, Indonesia, and so on. You will still probably see videos of that kind of stuff where they feel very inclined towards marriage as opposed to having relationships outside of marriage because of seeing like nice family content, right? At the time, that would have been my perspective. Now I see it as, it's very cringe, right? That kind of content and stuff. And again, people, like a lot of people mentioned at the time, other people seeing your wife like that and knowing her personality and things like that in public, it's not something that I agree with. So my perspective and opinion on that has changed since, right? And I am where I am and I'm comfortable and content.
Ultimately, obviously, normally it takes 2 to tango, right? You must have had, obviously, contribution it can't be just Abdullah just doing all by herself. She needed you
Doing what?
to play a part in terms of social media.
Oh, social media.
Social media, contents. And obviously, did you not feel like, you know what, I have a responsibility before this content goes out because so many people are going to do so many things. And as you've just said, people have done.
Yeah. So as time went by, say she started in about 2015, 2014, I don't know which year, right? As time went by, I started to play more of a role, right? So in like putting up captions and stuff, she'd check if she's got everything right in terms of Islamically, actually, yeah? I'd approve of it and stuff like that, yeah? I'd be like, yeah, that's fine. That's all right for you to say Islamically, because she didn't grow up with Islamic education. She had a whole different background, whereas I had an Islamic background, yeah? So I started to play more of a part like a director, so to speak, yeah? So I'd be like, well, because she didn't have Islamic knowledge, I could say, you can say such and such. She had a BBC interview she was on radio with BBC, right? And again, she was telling me she's very nervous, right? You can just whisper into my ear whatever I want to say. And I did that. So, I played like a director kind of role, yeah? Mm-hmm. Or say, for example, when it came to, she did a video about, I don't know if you remember that time, Boris Johnson, he mentioned niqabis are letterboxes, right? Yeah. So that video, right, I think I still have it unedited. So every sentence I would say, she would repeat, I would say, she would repeat, and we'd cut out me.
Okay.
Do you understand? Yeah. You can see obviously the.
Hey guys, I hope you have been enjoying today's episode. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. As it stands today, we're just over 2,000 subscribers, and our next goal is to get to 5,000 subscribers. Please help us get to that 5,000 subscribers. Now let's get back straight into the show. So you must have obviously become quite good at social media by that point. Like you kind of knew like what the people wanted, what the kind of the public wanted, and you must have obviously put out there what you felt would do good from an algorithm point of view, right?
Yeah. That obviously plays a part. That obviously plays a part, especially as I'm starting to say become less and less practicing. Say for example, as I'm having, alhamdulillah, I'm not at that point anymore. As I'm having doubts, say for example, about my own faith and religion, and it's not an easy thing for me, mind you, because my whole upbringing is fully Islamic. My life is Islam. What people say they would do now for Gaza, right? And how they express their anger online in being, I wouldn't want to call them keyboard warriors. Everyone's trying to do what they're able to, right? But at the time, I was a person who would be willing to give my life. Not that I would go towards giving my life, right? I wasn't scared of the police, terrorism, nothing like that. I was very vocal in my objection towards foreign policy of the UK and so on, yeah? Fearless, so
what year are we talking about,
This is in the year about between 2010, from the Arab uprising, all the way up until about 2015, 2016, when ISIS and stuff came out. I was very vocal against ISIS when they came out and stuff, but I was more inclined towards another jihadi group that existed before.
How did you come across this jihadi group? Like, how did it come about?
So since the age of about 16, 17, when I started practicing a little bit, I used to attend classes here and there. And they used to highlight the plight of Muslims, say, for example, not only in Gaza, not only what's popular, right? So as we know, obviously, sorry about that. As we know, there's Muslims suffering in Xinjiang province in China. Many people, we might not talk about it. Or say, for example, we're doing qunut, the dua after Fajr, for Gaza now. Us, we would do qunut all the time, at the time, because we understood and knew there are 1 million innocent people that died in Iraq from the war that occurred in 2004. They used some chemicals that left all those children deformed. If you just go on Google and Google it, you'll see all those results. So it's not that only when it was popular I was, against these things. My whole upbringing in life was about the ummah and how to support the ummah as a whole. I was willing to give my life. So for me, when I was having doubts about the deen, it was very heavy on me. It was very heavy because I was questioning myself like, okay, so everything that I've believed in up until this point, could it be the case that it's not true? And if it is, did I just waste my whole life? What can I take from this? I had a lot of questions, as you would. A lot of people, they go through life changing perspectives, opinions, and so on. For me, it was a huge change from one side, like being fully Islamic upbringing, to like, okay, does God exist? If he does, to what extent does he have control over our lives? What does he want from us? Is Islam the truth? Do I happen to be born into the truth? So I saw myself as, at the time, say for example, how Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was like, oh, could the sun be my Lord? Could the moon be my Lord? No. You know, when it settled, he said no. And then he later on came to the conclusion that Allah is my only Lord. Right? So I was going through this whole phase in my own life where I have to think, what is the truth? Because I want to follow the truth. I don't want to just follow something because I was born into it. Just because my parents were born Muslim, now say I was born Christian, should I now think that just because I was born Christian, it is the truth? Where would we be if we don't question what we hear and see? Say for example, Ibn al-Haytham, right? One of the great Islamic scholars. He said, for a person, if they are seeking the truth, you must make it a principle that you make yourself the enemy of everything you read. You have to be able to question things for you to develop in your mind.
So, terrorism. Where did that begin? Like, what year and where? At what point did you think, you know what? I'm not gonna follow the law of the land, and I'm gonna take matters into my own hands.
See again, that's the details of it. I'm willing to discuss. I'll get into it slowly. I'll tell you where it began. Again, by the way, I'm writing a book on this.
Okay.
My journey through terrorism and stuff. Yeah. So when I was say about 10, 11 years old, yeah, I think 2001, Twin Towers were hit. I was in Bangladesh, and around the time...
Were you still like kind of in Bangladesh? You weren't...
I was in Bangladesh, yeah. I was living in Bangladesh.
Okay.
Yeah, I came here and then I got citizenship after a few years.
Okay.
So I was in Bangladesh. Twin Towers were struck. I heard people saying, oh, they're saying it's Bin Laden, right? And I thought Bin Laden is a country at the time. I'm a young kid, right? So later on, there was madrasas and mosques and stuff like that, where I think they were handing out free cassettes and stuff like that about the Taliban and jihad and Bin Laden and stuff like this, because it's all kicking off around that time, Afghanistan, and from me it's like, well, Muslims against the West, right? They invaded Afghanistan, and my mother, she used to read magazines, Parwana, I think it's called Parwana or something like that, and that Islamic magazine, they used to highlight stuff like happening in Chechnya in 1995. I know some people who actually fought in Bosnia, Chechnya, and so on. At the time, they were coming into Muslim houses, Russians, and they would take children, put them inside a meat grinder, and you'd have to see your child come out of a meat grinder. They'd rape sisters in front of their husbands and stuff like that. A lot of these things, a lot of people don't know. But I grew up knowing and understanding all of these things, right? So I had a lot of...
Did you trust those sources though? Like, the sources of information. Did you verify that it's a legitimate source and it's from accurate source? Okay.
I'm a 10-year-old kid, but
so
there isn't anything to verify, because the whole world knows about, at the time, about the plight in Chechnya.
Okay.
Everyone knows there are children, women, Muslims getting killed and butchered in Chechnya. I don't know if this generation's gonna know, but everyone here.
Well, now they know about Gaza. They know about Gaza and Palestine.
Know about Gaza. It was a similar situation. If you Google it, you'll find it. About, I think, 1990s.
Yeah.
There was Bosnia.
Yeah.
There was Chechnya.
Yeah.
Massacred. Muslims were massacred, right? And the jihad at that time, it was supported by the British, by the way. They allowed mujahideen to go from this country, fight, come back. And there are still some brothers you'll probably see in the mosques and normal mosques. They came back and stuff like that. Well, some of them, they probably work for the...
See, this is
Yeah.
crazy, man. How this
You
stuff
don't know about
work,
these
you know,
stuff,
when they support ISIS, when they don't support ISIS, when they support Saddam, when they don't support Saddam, when they support Taliban, when they don't support Taliban, is this whole geopolitical thing.
It's very complex.
It's very
It's very
complex.
complex for me now
Yeah.
because I'm seeing it as a grown man who's 31 years old now. At the time, for me, it was a basic understanding that I wouldn't question the hidden intentions behind any political party or group. I'd see it as, okay, they're attacking Muslims. It's upon us, Muslims, to defend our own lands. Now, whether I'm Bengali or Pakistani or Afghani or Arab, if they're attacking the Muslim land, it's a Muslim land. We see that as our land. That's the perspective.
But does Muslim land exist though? Is there Muslim land? Is there any Muslim land around the world?
In the technical sense of an Islamic state,
Yeah.
currently we don't have an Islamic state as Muslims. But in terms of, say, Muslim populated countries, in Bangladesh, I don't know, what's the population? About 95%? I don't know. Somebody can
It's
probably verify.
the fourth largest, I think,
But
Muslim
yeah.
population.
But now, say for example, right, our villages, now they're attacked by a foreign force. We'd expect ourselves to defend it. That's our uncles and aunts back home, right? And you would expect other people who are your friends or anyone who wants to stand for justice to stand with you, just as the people of Gaza would.
So did your parents try and stop you from these thinking? Did you kind of evaluate those thoughts with your parents and say, look, this is the phase I'm going through. These are my understanding.
No.
Or they didn't know anything about it.
So this I'm talking about when I was very young,
Okay.
right? This isn't much exposure. This is just basic knowing that.
So you were just angry inside, like, I'm not.
I was angry at those kind of things, and anyone should be.
Yeah.
Even at this age, I'm not as angry as I would have been at that time. Say, for example, when I was 16, 17, 18, I've got responsibilities and so on. Not to say that that's a good thing. That's actually a bad thing for your heart to be somewhat dead, right? So for me, seeing children in Gaza and so on, nowadays, only because it's highlighted in my, say, explore page, I'm seeing it. Otherwise, would I go out of my way to go and search if anything like that is happening? Or would anyone else do that? Like, it's a problem with us. So we'd see something, feel sad about it, next reel.
Yeah.
Some life hack, right? We'd forget about it. So yeah, not necessarily proud of this.
So how did you end up in jail though?
So this is what happened. I was an imam in the Al-Ansar Center. I guess they might have been following me around a bit because a lot of the people that I was around, some of them, they had very
What
extreme
group
views.
was it, if you don't mind me asking?
It wasn't any specific group, but there was a lot of ex Al-Muhajirun members.
Okay.
And maybe Hizb ut-Tahrir people.
Okay.
I wasn't with Hizb ut-Tahrir or Al-Muhajirun themselves, but I guess I had a lot of Al-Qaeda propaganda thrown towards me. You understand? And I'm at the
And
time
what age is that?
16, 17.
16. Okay.
Yeah. So, look, going from Bangladesh here, I came to this country here. Then I'm just, learning English, going to school and stuff like that, yeah. Blending in with the culture. Went to madrasa, came out of madrasa. Then, started attending these classes where some of them would be like underground, yeah, in a basement all the way in, not all the way, it's just in Whitechapel.
Mm-hmm.
It was in a basement. It was packed, like a room maybe double the size of this. There wouldn't be an inch for you to move.
Do you think now that you look back, do you think that was a propaganda as well? That those circles themselves?
Those circles?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I got to find out. And that's why I was writing a book about it.
Okay.
So say, for example, my journey there in there first, very innocent. Yeah, 16-year-old kid.
So were you going for Islamic talk or something, or to
Islamic talks, and in a lot of those Islamic talks, plight of Muslims and their suffering would be highlighted.
Mm-hmm.
Rightfully so, but how to go about helping them, that's not something that they would publicly tell you or advise you privately about. That's something that you'd go and do yourself. I'm not saying I was a part of those people who would, go and blow up buses or something like that. Yeah? That's not something that I've ever agreed with anyway. Or killing of women and children, indiscriminate killing. I don't agree with those things. And again, when I went into prison, I was actually exposed to people who have similar views to what the Jews say now. I don't know if you see some videos of Israeli citizens saying the children in Gaza, they deserve to be killed because they're going to grow up to become soldiers anyway. Have you seen those kind of videos?
Yeah.
So like that, I came across a lot of people inside prison who would say they're serving life for terrorism. One guy, he wanted to poison the handle of cars all around Birmingham so he could kill the kuffar. I didn't agree with him, right? So we had a few disagreements and stuff, and he was calling me a spy sent in by the MI5 and stuff like that, because he was like, you can kill Jewish children indiscriminately. You can kill them because they're going to grow up to become soldiers anyway. So those are the kind of people that I came across inside prison, yeah? A lot of crazy beliefs, crazy
So what
people.
did they do you for though? Like, how did you?
What did
how
they do me for?
Yeah,
So
how did they come about? Like, okay, Hasanat, you're under arrest. Like,
I think they were monitoring me and
Okay.
stuff. And at the time, I don't know in your circle, but around the circles that I was in, have you heard of Anwar al-Awlaqi?
Yeah.
Yeah? He used to do talks on Hereafter
yeah.
series and stuff like that. And then when he moved to Yemen and joined Al-Qaeda, he was saying things like, you know, attack the West and stuff like this. And me, in my teenage years, I heard Hereafter series, talks about Jannah, Jahannam, stuff like that of Awlaqi. So when he was saying these things, they published a magazine, that certain group, yeah? So I didn't know, nor did anyone else who had the magazine. There's a lot of white people that went into the prison for that magazine as well. They were talking about on the radio shows and so on. It was called Inspire Magazine, yeah? So it was Section 58 of the Terrorism Act, meaning being in possession of anything which is likely to be useful to a terrorist, you're going to serve up to 10 years. They never give you 10 years anyway. They give you roughly about 1 year or so. With me, they gave me about 7 months. And the judge was actually saying how he feels sorry for me that now my record has to be ruined because I was in possession of that magazine, that digital magazine.
I thought, bro, like you went and done something, you know.
No. I didn't do anything. No. So again, misunderstanding, yeah? But having said that, that doesn't mean that, well, in their eyes, regardless, you're still a terrorist, yeah? That's how the British government would generally view you. You're always a potential terrorist. If there isn't a terrorist, they'll make one up. I'm sure there's a lot of people that have like family members, cousins, friends that might have been falsely imprisoned for, say, terrorism charges, or, you know, you might have experienced some form of that discrimination. And fortunately for me, alhamdulillah, it's good that I went into prison for 7 months because I got to develop as a person. I learned by seeing, we had a big library there. So
you went into prison what year?
2011, October.
Okay, and you were there for about 7 months.
7 months, yeah. But yeah, so we had access to a lot of books, Islamic education, Arabic lessons. It's very comfortable in there, bro. You go in there. At first, when I got arrested, I thought, that's it, man. No one's going to see me again. I'm going Guantanamo. That's it. That was my understanding. But the thing is, they kept me 7 days inside Paddington police station, yeah? They treat you really nice. The British, they're very clever. Because their understanding is, well, if we can get him to work with us, then
Is that what it was kind of leading to at some point?
So again, yeah, a few times they offer you things like this. Oh, Mohammed, you're going to serve a very long time. You do know that. But if you can, they'll say it indirectly. If you can help us, we can help you, you know? And they'd come on visits, prison visits, and be like that, yeah?
Wow.
But as I was saying, going back to what I was saying, yeah, I had access to word-for-word Quran. So my time inside a prison cell, I used that time to perfect my Arabic, to understand Fusha properly, right? And that would later on serve me towards my Ruqyah as well. That benefited me. Because a lot of Raqis you might come across, not to put them down, they might not understand the Arabic language, right?
Yeah.
But I understood the Arabic language because I learned it within that time that I served in prison. Otherwise, I might have been out, I don't know, wasting my time. Or
So you came out. So
I came out, and inside prison, from what the other brothers that were in there for, what they observed, like, I'm a well-mannered young man. They said,
you come across very naughty.
I come across.
Yeah, you come across very naughty.
No, but maybe slightly cheeky in my personality that people might have viewed throughout that social media period time.
Yeah.
But generally, I'm very responsible. I try to prioritize on my manners and so on. Yeah, that's something that I've always been fascinated with. I try and teach my younger brothers teach my family, anyone around me. Manners is very important because, you know, always grew up learning that through having good manners, Prophet ﷺ, he said, by having good manners, a person can reach the status of someone who prays all night and fasts all day. And there is nothing that weighs better on the scales or more on the scales of Allah than good manners. So for a person who has good manners, it's like they're constantly doing jihad, right? So that's something that.
So we've spoken about your early life. We've spoken about the supposed terrorism.
We've been everywhere.
Supposed terrorism. Now, obviously, now you say to me it was just a magazine that you were in possession of, and for that reason you got put in jail.
You can check it actually on Google. If you type in my name, it comes up.
Okay, and then we spoke about Abdullah. We spoke about, and then Sarah happened. You know, the marriage happened, and that's what the world saw. That's what we saw from social
that's
media.
When it blew up even more.
Yes. And then I guess that's what was, I think that was your kind of optimum, I guess, the peak of your social media presence.
And then came about, he's a thief, he stole charity money.
Exactly, so that's where I'm trying to get to. So you went all the way up there, and maybe if you kind of carried on that basis, maybe God knows where you'd have been now.
I'm glad I didn't. Because at the time, I guess my ego might have been quite inflated. And Allah does everything for a reason, right?
So do you think because of your ego, Allah wanted to teach you a lesson that, okay, you know, you're getting a bit too big for your boots now?
Allah, out of His kindness, does a lot of things that from the apparent might seem like it's bad for you, but in reality it's good for you. Like Allah says in the Quran, and something might happen, it's good for you and you deem it to be bad. And again, vice versa. So
okay. Did you go into jail again after this whole charity situation?
After this whole charity situation, what happened was, so in June 12th, 2019 is the last time I saw my two sons, right? My daughter, she wasn't born yet, right? My wife at the time, she was pregnant. Yeah, so my daughter was born after the social media scandal, so to speak. People falsely accusing me of robbing charity money, yeah? Not knowing how to do ruqyah or doing fake ruqyah, whatever it is, yeah? All of these stuff occurred, and then my daughter was born during this period. So it was very stressful for us, right? At the time, for about 6 months, I couldn't walk outside normally. My friend said to me, "You can't walk outside, man. I'm going to drive you everywhere."
That's during the whole donation scandal.
Yeah. People wanted to kill me and stuff. I would get attacked on the streets. So he was like, "You're not going to walk outside. I'm going to drive you everywhere. So just for my safety." That's my friend from like childhood, from madrasa. Right?
Okay, fine. Just to kind of put in a nutshell, where did the money go? That's my kind of
what we forgot. You just asked a question and I was just answering it. Yeah. So you asked about
how did it
about going
go
into
down?
prison again.
Yeah.
You said about going to prison again. Yeah. So what happened is during this time, June 12th, 2019, all the way up until about November. November was when my daughter was born. During this time, I had a lot of stress on, but I was coping really well. I was very positive. I was like, well, I'm going to get through this very easy. I've always got faith in myself, yeah? My health wasn't bad at all, yeah? Then, as it came to about September, October, November, I started vomiting constantly, yeah?
Well, out of the blue?
Yeah. I think it must have been something that I ate. Mackerel or something like that. Yeah, I guess in prison I had that problem as well. And then I started vomiting and stuff. I started losing weight. From weighing like 80 kilos, I went down to about 60 kilos. Every day I was vomiting, couldn't keep anything down. And during this time, one of my ex-in-laws, at the time they were my in-laws, which I feel ashamed to say, to be honest, but they threatened my wife at the time, their own daughter, their own family, yeah? Saying, if you go back to him, we're going to make up a whole story where everyone's going to corroborate it, and we're going to say that you're a danger to the daughter, right? So that's exactly what they did. And obviously, as everyone knows, social services in this country They're just looking to snatch children. It's money for them. Every little case that they win, yeah? So any little opportunity they find, they'll take it on board. So we had that stress on our minds, yeah? And at the time, I was looking after my daughter, and wife at the time had an appointment with social services. So they asked her, who did you leave the child with? She said, oh, just a neighbor and a friend. So that's when they were suspicious, right? He's a danger to her and stuff like that. That's what my ex-in-laws mentioned to the social services. So the police, they were after my daughter at the time. And we were in hiding. We were on the run from the police. Not just one police force, 3 police forces. Counter-terrorism, Sussex Police, and the Metropolitan Police. And I made them run around everywhere. Because I knew that from my experience before, of being inside prison, and before that, I knew that they would carry out surveillance, and they try and pinpoint my location and stuff. We took out all the SIMs, and what we did, I made people from different countries sign in to my social media accounts. So they would go to different places. I saw later on in the police reports, they assumed I might have been abroad. They didn't know exactly where I was at all. So we also had this, I also created this system with one of the neighbors. Whenever the police would come to the house, we created a secret little path where we could just sneak into my neighbor's apartment just so they can't take my daughter away. I'd rather die than give my daughter away. And during this time, we were trying to make arrangements for her to be safe. She's in the best hands with her parents, of course. So every time the police would come, they would knock on. My brother there, he would open the door. He at the time might have been about, how old were you, 14, 15? 15, he was about 15, yeah? But he was very sharp already because of all these experiences. So he'd open the door and be like, come in and check. They're not here. So they'd see the pushchair, they'd see the baby food. And during this time, mind you, I'm vomiting. I'm ill. I can't keep anything down, yeah? And so every time they'd come, they won't find us. Until on one occasion, they came when my stomach bursted open inside and I was bleeding internally, right? Just at that moment, they bursted in. About 26 of them with guns and stuff. So at the time, when that was the moment which changed my whole perspective on life itself and made me reevaluate everything. Because where before that I thought, we all hope to have a long life, right? Generally, we don't think something's going to happen to us. Cancer, diabetes, health problems. At the time when my stomach bursted open, I thought, this is it. This is the end. This is the end. I ripped my clothes off. I was on the floor, butt naked. We had a volunteer there as well, and there was my wife, volunteer. The police had just come into the house, and my daughter. So I handed my daughter over to my wife at the time. I said, go to the neighbor's house so you can be safe, yeah? And I was on the floor naked. They come and find me in that humiliating situation. And I was gasping for air. I couldn't breathe. At the time, I was like, oh Allah, forgive me. Oh Allah, forgive me. I said my shahada and stuff because I thought I was going to die. That was it. That's what struck me back down to ground, right? Humility. So again, Allah does everything for the better. So at that time, they arrested me for, I think, child endangerment, or from my previous conviction of being in prison, I had a 10-year notification period where I'd have to inform them every time I go abroad. If I change my name, if I change my address, I'd have to tell them. So they said the apartment we had at the time, mind you, is rented. It's in Canary Wharf, Canning Town. Mm-hmm. We were paying rent on that and we were putting it up on Airbnb. That's how we were earning our money at the time. Because obviously Ruqyah went down the drain, social media down the drain. I had to pick up something else fast. I had to be fast because my outgoings are way more than what I'm bringing in. So we started renting out this apartment. We got it only to rent it out. But the police, because they didn't have any charges on me, they thought, how are we going to limit him? Yeah, they said restrict him like this. Let's say he breached his notification order and he was living at this address without informing us. So that's why they arrested me. Contrary to what people might have thought about, oh, he got arrested or he went to prison for charity theft or something like that. There was nothing like that. There was no police case for that. Police, they asked us a few questions at the beginning of it, and then they left it to the Charity Commission. I went for full comment interview, you understand? Instead of going no comment.
Is that interview like public information or
That's
the finding of the interview or the case?
That's with the findings of the case from the perspective of the Charities Commission.
Yes.
That's public knowledge, yeah. That's public knowledge. And they mentioned the funds were frozen, as I said from the beginning anyway, yeah. They mentioned the funds were frozen. They said about £62,000 of the money we didn't give full account of it, right? So again, to take you back to where all of this began, yeah? 2012, 2011, I witnessed and saw and heard about the problems that the Rohingya Muslims face in Burma, which a lot of people might not be aware of, right? And again, it's still happening till today. We might just know about Gaza, but we don't know about Burma. We should. So I knew about that, and I thought, well, when I'm a little older, I want to help the people that don't get any help. Yeah, Syria is getting the help they need. Gaza, everyone knows about. I want to help someone who is like a forgotten victim. So at the time, I said to my wife, "Listen, we got all of this money coming in and stuff. Yeah, we're doing Ruqyah. We're comfortable. We can take 2 weeks to go and do something good that will, be good for us." So we thought we're going to go for 2 weeks and help out some Rohingya refugees, hear and understand their stories. And so we set up a GoFundMe page for about 20,000, I think. So we went there in about August, September 2017. So as we were there, we went looking for the Rohingya refugees. It was difficult to locate them, find them. Finally found them. They said there isn't any sort of like violence or anything like that occurring at the time. And strange enough, just as they said that, just a few days later, in September 25th or about the 30th, I think somebody blew up. Somebody from either the Rohingya Muslims or someone else blew up a checkpoint of the army in Burma, Myanmar. So these Burmese people, obviously Myanmar is mostly Buddhists. They took their anger out on these innocent Muslims. They started burning their houses, chopping them. Yeah, you can see all of those things from 2017. That's there. Yeah, we highlighted a lot of that. I was very emotional about at that time. My wife at the time, she was like, "Man up," because I was like crying seeing all of these things and that. Yeah. So at the time, as we're there, all of this started occurring. Just happened to happen. And we see all of these BBC reporters that I normally see on the news and stuff like that coming in. I'm like, oh, what's going on? So we see there's about 400,000 refugees coming in from the Bangladesh border of Myanmar. And the refugee camps, it just smelled so bad. It was just packed out. People didn't have a roof over their heads, or not even a tent. Everyone was trying to help as much as possible. UNICEF, all other major charities and so on, yeah? So we said to ourselves, well, we left one of our sons, and you see on the videos on YouTube, I think one of the videos is called Bye Bye Abdullah, right? We left our eldest son with my in-laws. We went with the younger one because we thought we're coming back after 2 weeks. But because the situation was so bad, we thought, no, we have to stay much longer. And we didn't want to leave Abdullah with my in-laws any longer because he's a breastfed child. Both of them were being breastfed at the time. We're very strict on that stuff. So I came back for 1 day, withdrew some cash from the GoFundMe. I think about 7,000 they allowed me. I got it from NatWest in Stratford. That's all they had at the time. Withdrew it, went back, took my son, and then we went there, we went to the banks, we told them, we did some charity sort of like campaign. They asked, are you a registered charity? We said no, because obviously we just wanted to do this little thing, which was like, £20,000 target. So again, it went up to £300,000.
Wow.
Right? overwhelming. And all of this coming into my personal account. All of this coming into my personal account. Mind you, I don't have any experience at the time of running a charity, nor did I have the intention of running a charity. This is just a small little campaign we're doing, just as anyone else does. I'm going such and such place, building some wells or whatever it is, yeah? If you guys want to donate, you can. Everyone does that, right? So again, now we have to register the charity. We're being told by people in Bangladesh, by people in this country. So I thought, okay, well, let me try and get started on the process. Because the banks, they said you can't withdraw the money unless you are a registered company. Because they don't understand crowdfunding back in Bangladesh. Anyone who has any doubts, they can go and check for themselves with the Bangladeshi banks whether they allow you to withdraw money that you say you raised for charitable purposes. Yeah. And obviously, I don't like putting my own country down, but the truth is what it is. Okay. And I'm not shy to say it. In our country, as with every country, corruption exists, right? I'm not saying this specific group of people from the army or the government, they were trying to take the money for themselves. But I felt as though, as I've given words to my followers, so to speak, I don't even like using that word, by the way. It's terrible. Audience, let's say, yeah. My audience at the time, I gave them my word. I'm a man of my word. If I told you that I'm going to make sure that money reaches the people in need properly, right? I'm going to try and stick to my word. I'm not going to just hand it to someone else and try and just leave it, because I don't know what could happen. And a lot of people said, oh, a lot of what's being donated is being misused or being resold by the army. So there's that doubt in my head. I can't verify. But what I can verify is if I give it to you by my hand, right? A lot of the videos we recorded, me and my wife at the time, of us.
So
let me finish. Of us secretly handing money to, say, for example, women that were alone or elderly people, because a lot of people, they were coming for rounds of taking charity, but men would be able to come twice, 3 times. But the weak ones, they left on the side. So we try and secretly give them money. But as soon as you get money out, it's going to get snatched from your hand. They're very desperate people. They need help. They need food. They haven't gotten food. They've been walking 7 days. We walked that journey for half a day. We were exhausted, mind you. And we've got our children with us as well. 2 of our children. A lot of people that went there, they might have gone there for 1 week, 2 weeks. We were there 3 months. My sons, they had mosquito bites everywhere, right? We became ill and stuff, staying around there. But we wanted to make sure that the money reaches the people. So what happens is, I asked around. I spoke to this brother who runs a charity called Poriborton Chai. We want development. That's what it means. In Dhaka, yeah? I asked him, how do you register a charity? Can you help me out? And so on. He was one of the people in my audience. I don't like to say followers again. So he said to me the process, and online I saw as well, the process takes a good 2 years. Anyone who wants, they can go and check it out themselves. In Bangladesh, to register a charity, it takes about 2 years. Just the application process. Now, these people that are dying now, that are injured, burnt, are they going to need help in 2 years? Are they even going to be alive? I need to help them now. So I said to all my relatives, all of you guys might as well get together, give whatever you can. What we'll do, because the money's come, once we've registered the charity back in UK, I'll reimburse you all the money that you guys gave. And us, obviously, we had our own source of income. We had Ruqyah money, cash and stuff like that. I didn't want to leave the cash in the UK. Took it back home for, at the time, we're going to help out refugees and stuff. We can also have some time with our family, right? So I said, well, let's spend our money. We'll reimburse ourselves later because that money's coming in, right? So we started registering the charity in the UK as well with this guy called Mike. I think if you Google register a charity on Google, that's the first guy that comes up. I still probably have those emails somewhere, yeah? So we were trying to register the charity here as well. But anyone who tries to register a charity will know it's a very vigorous process. And you have to prove, because there are so many charities that exist, you have to prove why you are different than all of these charities and why they should allow you to be on the register, right? So all of this takes a lot of time. And mind you, looking after 2 kids yourself, yeah? And again, I still have all those receipts and stuff like that of the hotels that we stayed in, yeah? They were like £13 hotels that we stayed in, yeah? Where every other charity organization that went, I can tell you very clearly, I can challenge them to show their receipts of where they stayed and the money that they spent. Is it from charity? Is it from themselves? For us, we tried to spend as much as possible from our own. So we stayed in this place called Ikra Beach Hotel in Cox's Bazar. Yeah, £13 a night. It was. I still got the videos. I can give it to you. You can add it on if you want. Yeah, we got these George Foreman grills that we're grilling the chicken and stuff on inside these rubbish hotel rooms. Yeah, we thought we need to help the people as much as possible. We need to save the money.
So why couldn't you just share this journey at that time? Because you kind of got everything tangled, like, you know, the
Because-
Sarah situation, the donation situation, and everything kind of collided together.
It all came at once. Now I'll tell you something. Once something comes out online, it's very hard to control it, right? Now imagine there was a woman who wanted to marry me, right? She was very keen on marrying me. Her brother came outside my apartment in Chris Street with a knife. He said, "Where is he? I'm going to kill him." Yeah. He's calling all the numbers, yeah. My first wife picked up at the time. "What is it?" He said, "He wants to marry my sister. Yeah, I want to kill him." I said, "Calm down, brother." She was very calm. "Calm down, brother. It's your sister who wants to marry my husband." I'll show you the conversations if you want. We have access to each other's phones at the time, yeah? So this sister, in the end, right, because there was a dispute between her and another potential wife, right? And I was left in a situation where I could only manage and handle one because they have too much friction between themselves. I can only marry someone who would get along with my current family. Because I've always been the kind of person, whenever there's, you know, when you start to grow in your fame and stuff like this, yeah, literally, it's no exaggeration. People start throwing themselves at you, yeah. Women all of a sudden become available to you, yeah. So for me, I was like, well, I'm gonna have to choose one of them, yeah. So I chose one. The other one was very bitter. So what she did during this time of the scandal, and because she knew that I had some doubts in my faith, I confided in some close brothers about this, things like this. I was very open with my people who are close to me because I have no reason to really doubt them. So she knew about this as well, yeah? So she spread this as a rumor like, he is not Muslim. Do you understand? That's how it blew up. And then because she also knew that Charities Commission are doing investigations, she put it up out there. And a woman on fire like that, bro, you're not going to outwork her. She's got all the time in the world. She will go to every single person she can to make sure she puts out that same narrative, gets them all to push it forward. Now, during this time, a lot being thrown at you. If I answer one question, you'll see, if you go back to the lives here, right? This foolish young man from America, he started to get on it as well. Everyone wants a little bit of clout, yeah? He goes, he doesn't even know what he's saying. He says to me on a live, where is the proof that you stole the money? I said, yeah, where is the proof that I stole the money? He's trying to say, where's the proof that you didn't steal the money?
Yeah.
Now we go by this principle in Islam and generally as well, yeah? That the burden of proof is upon the one who makes the claim. Now, if I say to you, you're a rapist or you're a pedophile, do you have to prove you're not, or do I have to prove that you are?
You have to prove I am.
Because I'm the one who's making the claim. So now if somebody says to me, you stole charity money, where's the proof I stole charity money? I didn't. And how can I prove to you that I didn't? Except for the fact that the money is frozen. And it was frozen. And now you see it's been confirmed that it was frozen.
Is it still frozen?
They took it. So they took half of it, gave it to Islamic Relief. They took half of it and gave it to Red Cross. Now, mind you, going back to talking about charity and stuff like that, yeah, the reason why I didn't want to just hand it over to, say, for example, Islamic Relief and so on, yeah, I don't know what your perspective is or what anyone else's perspective is. For me, I see it as, now, if you look at some of the reports that some of these charities, they submit, yeah, you'll see what percentage is only spent on advertising campaigns. Now, if you go through Whitechapel Station, you'll see on the barriers, I don't want to mention the charity name, they're advertising on there.
But doesn't that generate more revenue for the charity though?
It does. But is it revenue you're generating, or is it charity? Is it money that people are giving, expecting you to help the people with. Now in Islam, we don't have this thing of 100% ownership policy. No way. Don't misunderstand me. Yeah. Because what it says in Surah Anfal, Allah breaks it down. There are 8 categories of people who it can be given to. Yeah. So one of those groups is the one who distributes the charity. They can take whatever is necessary. Right? So now, say for example, if you're running a charity and you've got day-to-day expenses of, say for example, admin costs, yeah? Perhaps some advertising costs and stuff like that. But imagine, right, you got £300,000 here and you spent 150,000 of that on advertising. I don't see that as adequate personally. And I think a lot of Muslims and a lot of people, had they looked into the reports of some of these charities that are trying to take money to help people, I don't doubt a lot of their good works. A lot of them, they do really good works. But for example, a chairman, right, receiving a salary of say 100, 200K, I see that as I don't see that as fair, right? For myself, I didn't want to take anything for the help that I was doing, but I didn't even expect to raise that much, right? But see, when we came back, this is what happened. See, when we came back after 3 months of being exhausted, spending all our money and our relatives' money. Some of them still haven't been reimbursed, by the way, because the money was frozen. Now, after we came back, we paid our rent. We paid our rent, which was £1,430, I think. We used to live in Parkview apartments. I still have our rental agreements. That's another matter. That was a lie against me. Now, I don't doubt that Muhammad Hijab, he does a lot of good work and so on. But since he made a claim, right? He's someone who had quite a bit of influence at the time, yeah? He claimed, oh, how did you get those 3 apartments? How did you buy those 3 apartments? That's a loaded question, right? If I say to you, have you stopped being a pedophile? What would your answer be? What would your answer be? I haven't been a pedophile in the first place. Yeah. How did you buy those 3 apartments in the first place? I've never bought an apartment in my life.
So you never bought Parkview apartment?
No, I still got the rental agreement. It was with Morgan Randall. They were the agents. Yeah, we had a 2-year agreement and then we extended it 1 more year. So that being said by people, now look, they added that charity thing to something else. He took the charity money and bought apartments. I've never bought an apartment in my life. You live quite close to where my parents live, right? And my parents, they live in a council place. Had I been that well off enough to buy houses, my parents wouldn't live in the state that they do. We like simplicity, but not that simple, yeah? I was just on my way to growing, yeah? Just on my journey. And that's when, all of these things came. Now, say for example, people like Muhammad Hijab or anyone else who said, well, you went and bought apartments. I didn't buy apartments. I've got all the rental agreements with all the different places that we've had. Now, the reason why we had 2 apartments is because, I like to always be there for them. I don't want to be in a workplace and only see them when they're too tired. For me, I want to see them throughout the day. So even when, for example, say when we started doing Ruqyah and we started getting busy, there was a line of people outside the apartment. We thought, well, maybe we can rent another apartment. And we weren't on benefits. We were paying our rent ourselves. So we thought, well, 1 apartment for Ruqyah and the next door apartment we can live in. So we don't have to always keep moving stuff around, yeah? So the apartment that was for Ruqyah, and we thought, well, that's quite convenient because what we could do, where we didn't have childcare, where we had childcare, that was fine. Where we didn't have childcare, our child is just in the other room. I taught him to play by himself and to keep himself company. So I started off for example, leaving him for 30 seconds, establishing trust. I'd tell him, Abba, Daddy's coming back, okay? So he'd see me come back after a few seconds. He trusts my word now. Now I'll do that for a minute. Now I'll do that for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So he learned to trust me when I said, because children, they have this fear of abandonment. So with my son, I try to make him develop in a way that
was that always a fear that this was going to happen? You're kind of training him to know that one day you will come back.
No. I'm saying when I'm taking Ruqyah sessions, right? When I'm doing Ruqyah, for example, in one room, I could leave my son
You
in
build
another
that
room.
trust with him.
Yeah. So he doesn't cry or he doesn't like, be like, where's my parents? If she's seeing someone and I'm seeing someone else, right? Yeah. 2 rooms. I could leave my son to play by himself. He uses his imagination. From like the beginning, I didn't give him toys and overstimulate him. I taught him to enjoy his own company and his own imagination. So I'd let him draw wherever the hell he wants, do whatever the hell he wants. So I taught him like at the beginning when he was born and stuff, he started walking. I taught him to jump off from a book. And then 2 books, 3 books, 4 books, until he could jump off from like a few stairs.
So look, obviously we've spoken a lot. This conversation has been very long. I mean, this is probably the longest conversation I've ever had with anyone.
To be honest, I haven't even touched the surface. That's what I was saying to you in the beginning, when you said to talk, right?
Yeah.
There's so much to talk about. I'm actually writing 4 books at the same time, right? And it's all about
So
all of
once
these
you
things.
re-evaluate, I mean, once you do self-accountability or self-evaluation, in a nutshell, what would you say you've kind of contributed towards in terms of everything that has happened and what you could have done differently? What could you have done differently to avoid all this drama that happened? And I'm sure nobody wants this drama. I don't want to be honest,
nobody wants
I don't want this drama in my life.
The online community, they love the drama. About a year or 2 ago, this brother, I think about 3 years ago, while I was in prison, my younger brother said to me, this guy said, if Hasanat was there, I'd want to spit in his eyeball, right? So I confronted him online on my live, Like, did you say that? He said, I don't recall saying that. He might have just said that based on what he heard of me, so-called stealing charity money, right? So I said to him, well, I didn't steal the money, such and such. We had a genuine conversation after we had a heated exchange. At the beginning, when we had the heated exchange and we were about to fight each other, there was like 1,000 people tuning in. And the moment we started talking to each other like decent human beings, all the people are gone. They don't want to watch it anymore. It's not drama. So people just want to watch things that are going to give them some sort of buzz, stimulation. Right? People love the drama online. That's why they were spreading it when it was like that. Do you think they would spread evidences that I would, for example, put up to support my innocence? People wouldn't spread it as much. It wouldn't be as interesting as this guy.
But you didn't
money.
come on very many lives either. I mean, were you on the run from the police, or why did you not come forward and say, "Listen, this is me, and I'm going nowhere"? Like,
no, I did.
That's what I would have done if I were you.
Yeah, I was always there. I was always in the public eye. I didn't run away. I didn't say, "Oh no, I'm sorry for something." My point was, right, when all of this happened, I didn't understand about an apology video. People said to me, why don't you just apologize? Apologize for what? If I didn't do anything to you, if I say sorry, that means I'm guilty. I didn't do anything to you. For myself, say for example, in my personal life, if I fell off the deen or I'm going through doubts or problems, that's for myself to deal with. And if I need help, I'd seek help from the people that can help me.
I think where it got tricky, Hasanat, is when you were doing Ruqyah while in that state of belief.
See again, loaded question.
That's what the world
That's
saw.
the assumption. That's the assumption. No, you did the right. I'm not saying anything bad against you. You did the right thing at the time, asking me, "Did you?" That's the question you should ask. Not why did you. That's going with the pre-assumption that you did something bad, but why did you do it? Instead, you should ask, did you do that? Well, then when you've established whether the person did that or not, then you can say why. You can say, why did you do that, or why didn't you do that, right? So, for example, did you do Ruqyah when you were a non-Muslim, right? Now, this I've answered in detail in a video that I made. I think I titled it like "Charging 25,000 for Ruqyah," right? Now,
did you?
I'll break that down.
Did you?
No, I didn't. Although people did just hand me, like, for Arabs, it's nothing for them to just hand 5K just like that. Like,
you went to Qatar, you went to various countries.
I went to Qatar, Dubai, all of these people. They came to me saying, I'm going to pay you such and such amount. Please just come. I was too busy with my life. We were at a stage where we thought, we're not going to be on social media forever. We don't want to be on social media forever. We thought what we're going to do is we're going to establish like an online Islamic bank like Starling or Monzo or something like that. That was our end goal. And then we're going to get off social media. We don't want to be on social media. We want to raise our kids. We want to maybe move to Africa, raise a few orphans in a village and live there, however we want. Even during the phase where I was somewhat, say, agnostic, even at that time, for me, it was like, I still want to do good and leave behind a legacy that my children will be proud of. For me, at the time, I might have had a slight bit of superiority complex where I thought, if there's a Muslim or a Christian, for me being someone who doesn't ascribe or... For me, someone who doesn't belong to any specific religion, I probably subconsciously viewed myself as superior, thinking, well, I'm going to help people not because I'm going to get a reward at the end of it or in the hereafter, but because I want to. Even though I don't know whether there's any accountability for my actions in hereafter. So I thought, whether there's a God or not, if there happens to be a God, and he asks me, what did you do with your life? I would at least have an answer that I tried to do some good in my life. I might not be perfect. Even now, I might not be perfect. But at least I tried to do some good. That was my perspective, even at the time as an agnostic. Mind you, I'm not an agnostic now.
So you're kind of all kind of back to where you're supposed to be, which is...
I guess what pushed me more towards it was my health, right?
Not the Ruqyah. I mean, you witness all this stuff when you do Ruqyah. It didn't make you feel like, you know what, this is like Allah's words having an effect on such and such being. That is the proof to me that the words of Allah is truth, 100 and absolute truth.
Mind you, that's a point of dispute between the scholars as well about the existence of jinn possession. Jinns, no doubt, right? There is a surah in the Quran, jinns. It says, قُلْ أُوحِيَ إِلَيَّ. So the point of dispute between scholars is about whether jinn possession exists or not. My perspective now, you might be surprised with a little bit, but that's a discussion for another day, right? But I can tell you a lot of fascinating stories about my time being in the field of Ruqyah from when I was 17 all the way to now, which is about, 14 years.
Do you still practice Ruqyah?
I still practice Ruqyah. But again, there's a misunderstanding on what Ruqyah is. Ruqyah is words or incantations which have a healing effect. Yeah. Now, going back to, because we're all over the place here, I'll go back to something you mentioned about did you do Ruqyah while you were a non-Muslim? I didn't, because at the time where I considered myself to be agnostic, I didn't like to recite or read words that I don't believe in myself. And I said that to my wife at the time, like, I don't like reciting because I understand the Quran. What I recite, I understand. I don't want to recite something that I don't fully believe in. So that's why, as you said yourself, who did the Ruqyah? That's of someone that you knew. That was Jahangir, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's the other person that was doing the Ruqyah for me, not myself. I tried to avoid doing the Ruqyah, right? So there was a number of reasons why I stopped doing the Ruqyah myself. Firstly, reciting from bloody 7 a.m. all the way until 11 p.m. all day, it's going to exhaust you. My voice was gone. Health was gone. I didn't want to do that. I thought, well, let them do the Ruqyah, right? And for me, I can focus on some of the other things that I want. For example, creating this bank, virtual bank that we want to create here. I wanted to put a lot of time and energy and effort towards that, because we thought, well, the audience that we have and the engagement we have, we can take that and translate it into, people creating accounts with this new banking system that will, not banking system, bank.
All right, look. Back to again the summary. Let's wrap it up because there's way too much. What did you contribute towards your situation? How could you have improved your situation? Because I, as a human being, I as a person, I would know what's right for me, what's wrong for me. Yeah. And as such, you should know also what's good for you and what's bad for you. What did, after reflecting and evaluating after many years, where do you see yourself contributing to the problem? Because I've seen some photos of you, with the brown or gold hair color, and then there was various things that were appearing on social media.
Indicative of me not being practicing.
Yeah, clubbing and stuff like that.
Clubbing stuff, again, that's something that we can discuss in detail and stuff, yeah? I'll just tell you one very important thing here, where we were talking about, you was talking about self-accountability, right? Muhasaba.
Yeah.
Umar ibn Khattab, he said, حَاسِبُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ قَبْلَ أَن تُحَاسَبُوا. Take accountability for your own actions before they're taken into account for you. Before Allah grabs you and then takes you into account.
Yeah.
So every day you should evaluate what you did, or what you did in the past year, what you did, in your teenage years, and how you could have done it differently, right? So in hindsight, looking back at that situation, I was of a total different mindset. What I could have done differently, generally as Muslims, we don't say could have. That opens the doors to shaitan. Prophet said, if only, if only, if only. In hindsight, what I would do if something like that occurred again, instead of laughing and joking about it and taking the mick out of a lot of people who are throwing insults and doing things like that, I should understand that there's a whole huge audience full of people and there's a lot of neutral people. Now, if I start messing around and joking around when somebody asks me a serious question, I'm not going to be taken seriously. Somebody asks you, did you steal money from charity? Right? Now, if I joke and say, some people, they ask me, why did you steal charity money? That would infuriate me because they're going by the pre-assumption that you stole charity money, but why did you steal it?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes with my sarcasm, I would say, yes, I did. And I shared some with your father. Instead of talking like that, because people are coming at me with insults, I should know to be better and instead just answer normally, move on to the next person, no matter how bad it is. Because I'm not the only person who has gone through mass amount of hate, right? I was just watching an interview of Beckham the other day. You know David Beckham, yeah? He was saying there were people attacking him, spitting on him, they wanted to kill him, he had death threats. That time where he got a red card or something like that. That happened with Cristiano Ronaldo in the Euros. There's been so many people throughout history who have had a period in their life where they've been hated by people. But again, you have to know, and that comes with wisdom and age, time, knowledge. You have to know how to handle people, especially the masses.
So I guess what you're saying is instead of being sarcastic and defensive about the whole situation, you should have just been...
I should have just explained plainly and just moved on. But
that's what I thought you would do though. I thought at some point there is something coming along the line.
No, I did. I gave all of that, but it wasn't in like a formal sense, like I'm publishing a formal something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I defended myself. I said what I have to say. I did what I have to do. But at the same time, my heart is going to be snatched away. So that was the most important thing at the time. My daughter, how can I keep her safe and make sure she doesn't end up in another home? So many children, they get abused or...
Where are they now, by the way?
My daughter, alhamdulillah, right now she's in a safe place. She's well and good, growing, alhamdulillah. My sons, I haven't seen them in a few years. And I'm sure this isn't something new for any fathers living in the UK. As you know, generally women tend to be favoured when it comes to the family courts. In the UK, it's not something new.
Are you in communication with the mother?
I would never be in communication with that mother. I would never want to be in communication. She's a liar. And when things became hot, she thought instead of defending yourself of what you're innocent of, instead you should start diverting blame. Instead of taking that pressure and handling it head on, you haven't got anything to hide. Now, I'll tell you something else, bro, yeah? You know, when it came to the Charities Commission, yeah? And the police asking us questions, yeah? We had a solicitor that was Muslim, Bengali, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I should say his name.
No, don't say his name.
But he said to me at the time, plainly, he said to me, you know, because a lot of the things that you get, you bought, say, for example, oil, rice, dal, lentils, and stuff for the Rohingya refugees. A lot of it is by street vendors. They don't really give receipts. Obviously, it's Bangladesh, yeah? Now, since we don't have that, but this government, they're not going to understand that, we need to make up receipts. I said, no way am I going to get myself. I like to observe and have a 360-degree view of things, yeah? How will this affect me later on? Now, if I'm not guilty, but I'm acting guilty, this is going to come and bite me. I said, no, there's no point in doing that. I sacked him. Now, I went back to the solicitor that I was with when I was initially in prison, Sister Zarina Mustafa from Tuckers. She said to me, I'm going to direct you to someone. His name's Seamus Austin. He's an Irish guy, also works for Tuckers Solicitors. He deals with all these financial cases and stuff like that. Now, I told him the whole story. I was taking my kids everywhere. He heard the whole story. He saw everything he needed to see. And he said, I feel so sorry for you. You're an innocent man, but because it's all about what you can prove, yeah, you're in a bit of a difficult position. Not that you're going to go prison or you're guilty, but we're going to say things as they are. We don't need to make anything up. We don't need to make up fake receipts. Let's just say it as it is. Say your story fully to them, and whatever comes out of it, it will. So him, may Allah guide him and give him some good, because he did something really good, yeah? For 2 years, he represented me with the Charities Commission, with all of this headache that he had to do and paperwork and go through thousands of transactions and statements and stuff like that. He said, I'm going to do this pro bono. I'm going to do this for free for you because I deem you to be an innocent man. And if ever you manage to get your money back, and you manage to get your status back, you can pay me if you want to. So, alhamdulillah, that matter, it was concluded and so on. I moved forward, alhamdulillah, developed a lot of small projects that I worked on. I'm at a very good place.
What about the children? When are you going to see them again? When do you think you're going to see them?
We're going to have to go through the courts to get access to them, because the fact is a lot of bitter women exist in the societies that we live in today. So, for example, when my mother was severely ill, and this is why I say I would never contact that woman again. My mother was severely ill, and I wasn't in a good place in my head, seeing my mother in that state, and she's crying to see my children, who she hasn't seen since 12th of June 2019. I remember the date because it's a big, strong emotional trigger for me, because at the time when her family bursted into my house and they threatened to kill me and took my children away, from that day I haven't seen them. And the time I contacted the mother regarding seeing my children and for my mother and father to see them, because they haven't seen them either, she called the police and lied, saying I threatened to kidnap my children. And for that, I was arrested, taken all the way. And in the end, they saw that what I was saying was true. I didn't threaten to kidnap my own children. So that's why I would never contact her again.
Abul Hasanat,
Yeah.
It's been a very, very long, interesting conversation. As I said right at the beginning, it's
like I said, we haven't even touched the surface.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I hope we can have another conversation at another time, because there's loads of questions that I have
Inshallah,
here that I couldn't get through to, and of course,
as for the whole detailed version of my whole life and story, I'm right. As I said to you, I'm writing 4 books about it. So when they're published, people can read it and so on.
No, of course. So again, as I said, it's not about taking sides. It's not about me favoring you or you saying whatever. It's just to kind of understand what really went on.
There's a lot more that I wanted to say to you. For example, about doing Ruqyah when you're not a Muslim. We established the fact that I wasn't doing Ruqyah when I wasn't Muslim. But the other little thing is, even if somebody is non-Muslim, can they do Ruqyah? And the answer is yes. And you can see on the video that I made about that as well.
It's been a very interesting conversation, and I wish you all the very best.
Jazakallah khair.
In the very near future, inshallah.
And yourself. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
And that's it for today. And I hope you have enjoyed today's episode and have entertained yourself. We have tried to maintain a very, very neutral view. I have no affiliation with Abul Hasanat. All I wanted to do is bring him onto the show and share his perspective and dig deep and ask him some really tough questions in terms of why he did what he did and why he did certain things. I hope you will hit that subscribe button, and until then, Assalamu alaikum.